Hey everybody, welcome to the Ronline Report. Today's guest, you may not know much about him yet, but he will soon be making his pro debut on stage in the 212 bodybuilding division at the New York Pro. Please welcome Jordan Wise. What's up, Jordan?
Hey, how's it going? It's good to be here. Thank you, Ron. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so like I said, you haven't been on stage since you turned pro at the 2021 NPC Nationals. You won the welterweight division. So, first question, what's it like being back in prep again? Because it's been a while.
Yeah, it has been a while. It's been good. I recently actually it's just something to share about. I recently had a kid back in November, so uh,
Oh,
only kid that I have, first kid that I have. So it's been a new challenge being back in prep, but also being a dad. I coach from home and stay at home, so I'm actually a stay at home dad. I have her with me all day, every day.
oh,
So even when the going gets tough and you get tired, I still got dad duties to do. So that's been fun. But
yeah.
yeah, I'm excited, and it's been a smooth prep so far. I've really been enjoying it, and just I love the process. I love all of it. I love the suffering, and I know everybody says that, but it really is
All right.
fun to
Oh,
me.
cool. So I don't know much about you, and I don't think too many people do. So it's time we got it all out there. So first of all, what were you into as a kid? Were you into sports or other hobbies? What were your interests back when you were a youngster?
So as a kid, my family was full of soccer jocks. So my older brother was a soccer jock. My dad was a soccer jock. I also played semi-pro tennis in college and college tennis. And then my younger brother was a soccer jock. I actually got really burnt out on sports because it was so much of that in my family.
Yeah.
So I kind of went the oddball. I was kind of the black sheep of the family. I ended up being into skateboarding, and I got into playing instruments and playing drums, and I was in bands. So I had a lot more artistic side, and I kind of strayed away from the whole jock sports idea, I guess you'd say. But I kind of found my way back that way, I guess, getting ready to graduate from high school. I was like, wouldn't say extremely overweight, but I was overweight, and so I wanted to lose weight to join the army. So that just made me dig into, hey, I want to lose weight. So I started running. I started going to the gym. I started training. I didn't know anything of what I was doing, but my whole goal was just to lose weight and to get in shape so that I could go to MEPS and ship off and join the army.
Wow. Isn't it ironic? I'm sure out of your whole family, all those jocks, I'm guessing you're the only one who's the professional athlete. Am I right?
That is correct.
Yeah. Look at the irony of that situation. So I want to know that was your initial way you got into exercise and everything. When did you become aware of bodybuilding? What was the moment where you decided I want to be a bodybuilder, or did somebody tell you, wow, look at you, you should be a bodybuilder? How did that all start?
So I never had that experience where somebody said, "Hey, you should be a bodybuilder." I was about 21 years old or so, and I was in the army, and I was not to dive into it and everything too much, but I was dealing with some mental health things that I was struggling with, and I was seeing a therapist at the time, and they were trying to put me on different medications and stuff. I was dealing with some depression, kind of stuff that everybody deals with, things that they've done with, especially with the military. And I decided that I was, hey, I'm going to dive in more into training. And the more I did that, it helped my mental health. It helped me to be able to control the controllables, and it just taught me to focus and be disciplined. And I started working on my diet. And then, believe it or not, I read the Arnold's Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding. I
Wow.
sat down and read it, and I would read it on as much as I can off duty whenever I could. When I was on duty, if I was working a 24-hour shift, and I read it and I started, just tackling the diet and stuff every day. And I was about 118 pounds, and I told everyone around me that was in my squad in my platoon, hey, I'm going to be a bodybuilder. And of course, I got the laughs, I got the there's no way. Now many of them hit me up on the regular and ask for advice and, hey, how do I put on muscle and what are you eating for this and stuff. So I never had that experience where someone said, hey, you should compete, kind of like like Ronnie did or something back in the day where they told him, hey, you look like a competitor. I said I was going to do it, and I mostly got laughed at because I was the small guy. I was 118 pounds. I was a stick figure, and
Wow. Hmm.
I just said, you know what, I'm determined. I'm going to do it. So here I am.
Yeah. Well, I always say if the only people who got into bodybuilding were the ones with those stellar genetics, we wouldn't have a sport because there'd be like five people that fit that criteria. But tell me about. I know we before we started recording, you said your military career ended kind of prematurely because you got injured. What happened there?
Yeah, so I was actually just in a training accident. I ended up getting tossed out of the top of a Humvee and was in full kit and ended up messing up my knee, ended up messing up my ankles, ended up messing up my wrists, ended up messing up my hip, had surgery on my hip, had surgery on my wrist, was supposed to have surgery on my ankles, decided not to. Basically, I got some bone graft stuff done and skin graft stuff done. Got some pins and some screws in me, but we're all good. You just learn to make do, and I think that's one of the biggest things that the military taught me. When the going gets tough, the tough gets tougher. As cheesy as that sounds, I always tell people when you're suffering, when you're dieting or whatever, it's like you just put one foot in front of the other. You may not want to do that cardio session, you may not want to hit that training session the day you're not feeling it. Just put one foot in front of the other and just keep on moving. So that's been my mentality with everything. And even from my injuries, it was like, well, I'm injured, but I want to get back into the gym. So I'm just going to keep doing my therapy. I'm going to keep doing my recovery stuff. And, eventually I was able to get back to it.
So you had been an MP, a military police officer in the U.S. Army, and you sort of continued on a similar pathway for a couple years after the military, correct?
Yes, sir. So I was military police. And then when I got out, I was trying to figure out what was next for me. And of course, it's really easy to just kind of fall right back into that if you already had that on your resume. So I was a probation officer, and then I was a federal officer for basically a subdivision of like FBI. I worked in like the FBI buildings and things like that, and was basically just doing that for a while. And then I decided to be done with that and still work the government sector. I worked for MEPS, where I actually processed and put people into the military. So whenever they wanted to join, I was doing all their processing to get them ready to swear in, and then doing their processing with their paperwork and their contracts and signing everything for them as well.
Funny, I was reading just last week, how like flat feet doesn't disqualify you from the army anymore, because that used to be like the one thing.
Well, yeah, there's lots of things that they have waivers for now. Believe it or not, they'll
Oh, I
they'll
do
send you
believe
to
it.
doctors and try to move things around because they always need numbers.
Yeah.
So
Well, we don't have a draft going on these days, but let's get back to bodybuilding. So Arnold's Encyclopedia, that's a classic. I think a lot of us watching this have read that and loved it. Who were the modern bodybuilders? Because you're young enough so that you had YouTube, you had the internet the whole time growing up. Who were some of the more modern bodybuilders or classic physique guys that inspired you to really take it to the next level and become a competitor?
yeah, so classic physique wasn't around when I got started, but I obviously looked up to Flex Lewis. He was the 212 champ at the time when I really started studying bodybuilding. But as far as like even my training style now, I really looked up to finding the first guys that I kind of found on YouTube were Guy Cisternino and Branch Warren, kind of the heavy hitters, the ones that were in there that were putting in the work, that were the hardcore guys. That's really what I liked. I didn't really like a lot of the fluff stuff. And so I kind of still say that I'm probably a little bit more like maybe more controlled because of some of my injuries and stuff. So
Yeah.
like I'm a little more cautious, but I definitely still go towards the hardcore style of training. I like to clang and bang, and I like to get in there and move some weight. That's my style of training for sure.
Branch, Johnny, and those Ronnie, they all got so much flack for their training style, but it worked so well for them. And I've noticed that the people who complain the most about it, then I go to their Instagram profile and go, wow, you don't have much muscle. So maybe you
No,
should try putting some weight on there and seeing what happens. So let's see, you're competitive. I got this from musclememory.com, great website. So was 2017 the first season you started competing?
2016 actually. There was a show in 2016 was my first year competing. I've done a total of I believe 10 shows.
Okay, yeah,
My
definitely
10th
answered
show
that.
was Nationals 2021 where I earned my pro card.
Yeah.
So I've done. There's also some shows that were not NPC that were it was one at least one of the shows I know was not an NPC show that won't show up on the record that was it was a new show that they were trying to get like sanctioned or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I did jump into one of those shows. So 9, I believe, with NPC, and I think there was one other one that was not NPC.
Okay, so 2017, I see you already went to the nationals in your second year of competing, made top 10 as a
Yeah.
lightweight. And if this is correct, please correct me if they had it wrong on the website. 2019 looks like an odd season for you. You went to the Dexter Jackson Classic. You won the middleweight class. You took third in classic physique in your division. And then, is this correct? You went to the nationals that year and took third as a bantamweight, which would
Yes.
be 176 is a middleweight and 143 is a bantamweight. So, what the heck happened there? Did you go on like a crazy low cal diet?
Um, will say that I had a coach that I don't agree with his methods. His idea was to bring me down extremely hard. I was extremely depleted. I was extremely the whole prep just like destroyed me. I mean, I was so flat the whole time. I know that I lost muscle during it and stuff. Um, but you live and you learn. And I ended up having to leave that coach. I'm not going to badmouth anybody or anything. It's just differences on what we saw was, I guess, best for me. And so I moved on after him, and that's whenever I actually, I feel like, made my biggest and strongest jumps with bodybuilding.
Who coached you for your nationals win, or did you coach yourself?
Justin Jacoby.
Okay, I know the
So
name. Yeah.
yeah, so we turned pro together at the exact same show.
Oh wow. So he was prepping. You weren't in the same class, obviously not the same class, although it would be top two. But yeah, that's got to be challenge as a coach. He's prepping you in the same show he's entering.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was definitely it was a fun challenge for sure.
So you did both again in 2020. You came back and did lightweight bodybuilding, third place in class physique. Didn't do so hot there. I mean, what was the? Were you sort of on the fence as to where you'd really fit in the best at that point? What division?
No, I didn't want to be classic. My whole plan was to always be 212, and I loved bodybuilding. Um, it was just one of those things where I had it that it was with the same coach at that time, and it was
Ah,
one of those things where he was like, "Oh, you should do both, and you should see, where you fit, and you should have more time on stage and stuff." So I kind of got talked into it.
oh
I
boy.
didn't really want to do it, and it was one of those things that I just did anyways. So peer pressure, shouldn't have done it, probably, but again, you live and you learn. You make mistakes as part of the journey.
Yeah. Well, if you're pumping iron and an Arnold fan, you know the phrase bad advices. He gave you some bad advices. So,
Exactly.
well, it all turned around in 2021. You won the welterweight division, the NPC Nationals, qualified you for IFBB Pro League competition. So that must have been a relief. It didn't take you a whole lot of time. I mean, it was like for 5 years of competing.
Yeah.
That's not like overnight sensation. But so how did it feel? Was it a huge sense of relief, accomplishment when you finally got that? I see it right behind you, that novelty pro card that they give out on stage. I love those.
Yeah. Yeah, it's there. I have to have it up, good reminder to keep working. But yeah, I mean, it felt like it felt like a big relief, but at the same time, it was like, okay, now the work begins. I kind of feel like I, was climbing to the top of the mountain, and then you get to the top of the mountain and you realize that, oh look, there's the other big mountain, and I'm at the bottom again. So that's kind of where I felt like it was like, coming off of the kind of there was probably like 2 or 3 days of high, like, oh, I got my pro card, but then it was like, oh, we got work to do. Like it's time to work. This is just the beginning. So that's kind of where my mindset is. I guess that's my mindset in general. Like I said, I'm always the hard worker. I would say that I'm never, kind of like my backstory. I'm never the genetic, you know, freak that just blew up overnight or was told, yeah, you should be bodybuilding. So my mindset is work ethic, just beat these genetics, be something, make them better, whatever you got to do.
Well, you don't turn pro with bad genetics. I don't care what I say. You don't have. There's levels. There's levels and levels and levels. There's Phil
True.
Heath and Ronnie Coleman are way up there, but then there's other levels where you're probably way up there. But you turn pro, and then like you said, it's like starting over. But most importantly, you're probably looking at the 212 division, the guys who are doing well, and how do I look compared to them, and what do I need to bring up or improve to stand next to these guys? So when you and maybe your coach or whoever it was helped you with that game plan, what was your plan? As soon as the Nationals dust had settled, and now it's time to go back to work. What were you going to work on?
So my biggest things to focus on for the 2022 off season were more posterior chain. I really wanted to bring up some thickness in my back. I really wanted to bring up some thickness in my hamstrings. I felt like I probably needed to start working, and that's something that a lot of people don't tell you or pay attention to, is working glutes directly. Because if you don't have that naturally, I mean, if you want striated glutes, you want to be peeled on stage, you got to have the muscle too. So I started working all of that. I started working my glutes, I started working my hamstrings differently, and I started working more on my back. I also think that my quads could have come up a little bit. I'm very naturally able to grow my upper body super easy. My legs I have to work at, and I have to put more emphasis on them. My arms blow up easy. So my 2022, the whole year, I didn't train arms and I didn't train shoulders almost the whole year. I trained 2 leg days, 2 back days, and a chest day. And of course, you get some bicep, tricep movement by, doing those, training those big muscle groups. But for me, it was like, I want to put on the general size all over, and I want to see these places come up. And I really do believe that I filled in a lot of those gaps, a lot of those holes that my physique needed. I do really feel like at this point, without trying to sound cocky, that I do have a very complete physique. Very well known from even from the judges and stuff before, that I'm very balanced, very symmetrical, things like that. So those are my strong suits: is conditioning, balance, and structure. Just being able to keep everything really without having huge gaps, or where you see somebody who says, oh, they have everything, but they don't have a back, or they have everything, but they don't have legs, so on and so forth.
And I commend you because it takes a lot for anybody who has a really strong, responsive body part to not train it, because it's psychologically so rewarding, and to spend so much more time on something. In your case, it was a posterior chain or whatever. That's not as, you don't get that immediate gratification. It takes a lot more work and a lot more effort. And man, I'm also curious. Where you had the hip surgeries and the knee surgeries, have you had to adapt your leg training in any way? Because I checked out your pictures, and your legs look, your quads especially, they're right where they need to be. So did you adapt your training around any limitations
Yeah,
or?
yeah, I've had to do some adaptive training. I've had to be willing to know when to take more steps back early on in this prep. So all off season, I train with Jason Lowe. He's my training
Oh
partner,
yeah, Broku.
and we
Yeah.
we train super heavy, like very heavy hack squats, very heavy leg press. We also would train with AJ and go train at his gym that was the dump, and AJ Sims, and
Yeah, cement
he would put
factory.
us through crazy leg workouts. But early on in this prep, probably 6 to 8 weeks in, I had to tell my coach, I'm like, hey, my knees are hurting so bad because of all that off-season training where I was smashing them so hard, that I had to almost like take 2 or 3 weeks off and like rehab them. I had to start doing. I have a friend of mine that's actually a physical therapist, and they were giving me all kinds of exercises, and I pretty much had to almost like start from scratch again and build my knees back up, because my tendons and ligaments and stuff were taking such a beating that it was really hard for me to train. But after about 3 to 4 weeks of rehab, I was able to get back on it, and we didn't lose any time, and I don't feel like my legs fell off. So it was good to get back on it. But I think that's the biggest thing, is you got to know the poker term: know when to hold them, know when to fold them.
It's Kenny Rogers. That's what that term's from.
Yeah,
The gambler. There was a song about poker. But
yeah.
yeah. So are you in the Tampa area?
I'm in Daytona Beach.
Oh, okay.
Daytona Beach.
Which is at the other side of Florida, the East Coast.
Yeah, East Coast, East
Yeah.
Coast. So it's basically
Miami,
45 minutes
Orlando.
from Orlando,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
2 hours, 2.5 hours from Tampa, about an hour and a half from Jacksonville. It's pretty central to whatever I need to do to get around Florida.
I didn't even ask you, are you from Florida or did you grow up somewhere else?
I'm originally from Texas, and
Oh, okay.
I've been everywhere, and moved around from military, and from my family moved around quite a bit. I lived in Georgia, I lived in Colorado, I lived in Arizona, so
Hmm.
I've been a little bit everywhere.
Well, that sounds like a bunch of Army bases right there. Fort Collins, Fort Hood, Fort Benning, maybe. Yeah, I'm guessing you spent some time in some of these places.
And it's
So
funny because I tell people I'm from Texas and they're like, well, you don't have an accent. And I'm like, yeah, well, that's what happens when you move around all the time. You just kind of lose it.
yeah, and so I see the Gasp and Better Body stuff. How did you become affiliated with that? They're obviously in Texas. Yeah, there you go. I actually got to interview Michael Johansson a couple weeks ago for this channel, and found out more about the company. But how did you become? Obviously, that's Branch, Johnny, Guy, Lex Lewis was part of them for a while. It's like epic competitors. So
Oh
how'd you
yeah.
become part of them?
I really just started with their ambassador program, and most people were like, "Oh, well, that will never go anywhere." And that was when I was an amateur,
Mm,
and I stuck it out for at least 2.5 years or so, 3 years, something like that. Just pushing the ambassador thing and just hoping for it and staying in contact. And I would be a part of their Facebook group and I would make posts and talk about the shows that I was going to do. And then when I turned pro, I just kept kind of knocking on that door. And one of the kind of athlete managers was like, "Hey, I'm gonna mention you to Branch and I'm gonna mention you to Michael and see what they say." And next thing you know, I was having a meeting with Michael, and the next day I was from the athlete manager, Johanna. I was getting a contract, and they sent me a contract, and it's been great. It's been awesome. I got to go out there last year
mm,
during their Better Bodies and Gasp kind of anniversary birthday thing that they did, and
yeah.
got to be around him personally. Got to hang out with Branch and go shoot guns at his
Huh,
ranch
huh?
and everything. So
Wow. Huh.
it was a blast. It's been great, and they're super supportive. I talk to Michael on a regular basis. They're supporting me in going to New York, so they're going to be there as well. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome. I mean, got to shoot guns with Branch Warren. I mean, the only thing better would be maybe going a boar hunt or something. But come on, we can't be greedy. But that's yeah, Branch is so cool. I love Branch. So New York Pro, man, you had your choice of so many shows all over the country, even internationally. You could have jumped into anything to make your pro debut. This is a gret show. I know I've been going to it since it was called Night of Champions. But what made you decide May 2023, New York Pro? That's the show I'm going to make my debut at.
Really, it just came down to I guess that's just my personality. I'm like I said from the beginning when I told people, "Hey, I'm going to be a bodybuilder," and I looked like I didn't even lift weights. Nobody believed me. And my goal has always been, "Hey, go big or go home." So I said, you know what, I want to go to this prestigious show. I want to stand next to the best. I want to be compared next to the best. I want to get feedback from the judges. I want to see where I stand and what I need to work on. And so my goal was never to pick, oh well, let me figure out the smallest show to do so that I can have the highest chances of looking good. My goal is to I want to be a top competitor, and so I want to stand next to whoever's the top, and that's always been New York. New York has always been the grounds for the top competitors, and it's definitely a big show and it's a prestigious show. So I said, hey, I'm gonna take a big swing and just go big or go home.
Yeah, wow. So I'm just curious. You turned pro at what 165 back in 2021? Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So what are you roughly playing? You must be pretty close. I could see the death face and I mean the strike. You're so close. What do you think you might get on stage at?
Probably around like 180.
Okay.
That's the plan. Maybe a little bit, maybe a little lower than that. We'll see once I get filled out completely and everything. I definitely put on some solid weight for a year, just a year off. So I definitely did some growing. Not expecting to be the big guy. I'm not expecting to be the biggest guy on stage. Like I said, I'm playing in my strong suits, my shape. I have tiny waist. I have great taper. I'm symmetrical and balanced, and I know how to come peeled. So my game plan is to be conditioned, condition, and I'm also 5'3.5", and so will I ever top out the 212? I don't know, but will I ever need to top out the 212?
Yeah,
Again, I don't
well,
know.
well,
You got
our two-time Olympia champion, Sean Clarita, he's about the
exactly.
same weight as you. He's a little shorter, but yeah, there's no way we're never gonna see him at 212, nor do we need to, you know.
Exactly. And he's 5'2", and I'm 5'3.5". So it's an inch and a half taller. But to me, it's if I can be where I'm at now, looking at where I'm at, if I can be 190, 195, I think that, I'll be a force on stage. So a couple more years, I think that we can definitely do some damage and be at the Olympia stage. That's the plan.
Yeah, I mean, my good friend Jose Raymond, same height as you. He did compete around 210 a couple times, 212, closer to the top of the. But if you ask him what was his best look, he always says between 202 and 205 was my favorite looks. He was just peeled. He didn't, he didn't have tiny little waists and joints like you do. He was a clunkier, more rugged branch type of physique. But I say this all the time. There are all kinds of great physiques. There's tall, short, wide, or narrow. There's not one type of physique that's the standard ideal for anything. So, you have a good chance as anybody, especially condition. That's where most guys, especially pro debuts, I see so many guys try to come in really big and full, and then they stand next to people they're on stage, a big line of people who are in shape, and they don't get called out. So you're playing your cards right. You also have a supplement sponsor if you want to mention them.
Yeah, so Primordial Legacy, my buddy Caleb actually started them, and he has chosen to sponsor me as one of his athletes. And so he hooks me up with all the supplements that I need. So shout out to him, shout out to what he's doing. Great company. If you look them up, I have a code with him, obviously, if you find me on Instagram. But the biggest thing that I'm super proud of him on is that he does posing seminars, and he does events where he's raising money for charity. So his biggest things is he's done breast cancer awareness. He did do a veterans shelter where he was basically donating everything to feeding veterans with meals. And now he's actually working on sponsoring for emotional support animals for veterans to be trained and to house them and to feed the dogs and all the stuff that they need so that they can give them to veterans. So like everything that he's doing is so he can keep investing back into the company, but then keep putting it back into charity. He's really not taking anything for himself right now, which is super awesome to see. And of course, I'm big with supporting veterans, so I love it.
Yeah, I mean, most guys would be trying to get that Lambo. So,
Exactly.
man, so I'm sure you've been excited about contests in the past, but this must be a whole new level. I mean, your first pro show, this is the third biggest show in the sport after the Olympia and the Arnold. New York Pro is right there. And not just the caliber of competitors, but it's just got such a history. The crowd that these shows, the New York, New Jersey crowd, it's like a whole other they go ballistic. They're very vocal. If they like you, you're gonna know they like you. Trust me. So how excited are you right now, Jordan?
I'm super excited. I'm counting down the days. I'm 13 days right now.
As
So
we speak.
we're
Wow.
just under, 2 weeks. Yesterday was 2 weeks out.
Yeah.
I'm really excited and I can't wait. I'm flying up there Tuesday that week, and I'll be training those last few days up there. I'm hoping to go check out, the Bev's gym. Everybody talks about it, and can't wait to go check that out.
Mm.
But I'm super excited. I've actually never even been to New York before,
Oh
so
wow.
I'm really looking forward to checking out the area and kind of just sightseeing and stuff maybe after the show. But yeah, I'm super excited, and I love that. I love that there's going to be a big crowd, and I love that there's going to be, most people are like, oh, I'd be nervous. I don't get nervous. I'm ready to put on a show, and I
Yeah.
hope that, like you said, if they're cheering, I hope it's cheering for me. That's for sure. So
Yeah. I mean, I tell people, I don't need to tell you because you're not nervous, but I always tell people, you've done all this work, have fun, really savor that day and that experience, especially if it's your pro debut. You only get a chance to do that once, you know, take pictures, talk to everybody, remember everything from that day and that night because it's a very special day. And it's you're gonna have a good time regardless of the outcome. Like I've been checking out your photos and I wouldn't blow up your ego if I didn't mean this. I think you got a really good chance. You have very, very balanced, symmetrical physique, shape, mass, the conditions coming in well. So I think you might surprise a lot of people. I mean, if I thought you were horrible, I wouldn't even have done this interview. I'll be very honest with you.
well, thank you. I
I would have made
appreciate
an excuse. I'm like, yeah. No, but I think you got a good chance, man. I really do. So
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm really just hoping, like I said, whatever happens, happens. I'm just really wanting to shock some people and put my name on the map and kind of, like you said, most people don't know who I am. Most people
mm,
probably won't know who I am. But hopefully after that night, people will say, hey, I know that guy. That's Jordan
Yeah.
Wise. You know,
It only
I'll
takes
be seeing him in the future.
one good show, and then they know who you are. I've seen it so many times. You go from your Instagram will go from like 10,000 to 50,000 overnight. I've seen that happen a million times too. I think you already have more than that. Yeah, and we will be on scene, just to let everyone know, Muscular Development. We will be there doing interviews the night before, and of course, all day and night of the show. We'll be on site, not in our mom's basement covering the show. We're going to be right there at the actual show. So I will see you in person, and wishing you the very best, Jordan, especially these
Thank you. I
last
appreciate it.
critical 13 days left as we speak. Dial it in. I can see you're already right where you need to be. So just coast it in and land that plane. Yeah.
Yes, sir. That's the plan.
All right. So we're going to put your Instagram link in the description of the video. It's at Jordan Wise.
It's
I think
at jwise_1992.
Oh yeah, that's right. At least you didn't put the IFBB Pro on there. That makes it harder to find actually because there's so many of
Yeah,
them.
that's in the thing. But I
Yeah.
was always I was kind of like one of those guys that was like, I'm not gonna be that person who immediately goes and puts it in my Instagram handle. So I kind of
Yeah.
left that portion alone. And plus, I already had my Instagram name for so long that I
Yeah.
was like, people, you know, who have tagged me in things or posted me in things, I was like, I'm not going to change it. It's just going to be the regular guy. If you want to know if I'm an IFBB pro, it's going to say it in my little description with my name, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. I would have changed mine in about 8 seconds. I would have ran off stage, gone to my phone, boom, changed. But that's me. Anyway, man, looking forward to seeing you on stage, Jordan. Great to hear a little bit about you. And hopefully we're going to be hearing more and more about you as time goes by, as you get established. You're a young guy, you're just 30 years old. Man, so such a future ahead of you. And very, very glad we got to do this today. So
Thank you. I
that's it.
appreciate you having me on.
So everybody, please subscribe to the channel if you're not already. If you like the video, hit that thumbs up thing. Leave some comments below. Of course, the little bell in the corner up there lets you know when we're putting out new video content. Check Jordan Wise out on stage on May 20th, the New York Pro. We will be live on site on this channel and on the Muscular Development website. So follow on coverage of New York Pro with us. And that's it. Thanks for watching Ronline Report with Jordan Wise. We'll see you next time. All good. Yeah, buddy. Hey, did you like that video? Smash that like button, subscribe to MD, and please comment down below. Thanks for watching.